Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are back on air. I got to give a huge shout out to everybody that's already in the building waiting. The Panda Bear supporters are here. The Panda Bear supporters are here. I am here. It's so good to be back with you all tonight. We've got a very controversial message I'll be talking about tonight. But I want to give a huge shout out to the 15, looks like 20, a little bit more than that, people in the chat room waiting for us as soon as we begin. It's an honor to have you all here. We're going to deep dive into this very quickly and soon. First and foremost, I got to give you a couple of shout outs to Toni Morrison for the clip that you're going to hear later on in this stream. Beijik as well for her continuous work moderating as well as responding to comments I don't have the time to get to. It's so good to have dedicated people on this channel and in this community. Good evening to everybody here. Rebecca Israel with Expectancy. GDAP, Melinda 1973. Huge shout out to all of the members of the channel. We have the new vlog coming soon. I promise it's coming soon. Let's go ahead and deep dive into this today. Why did I decide to talk about what I'm going to talk about today? Now, up until recently, I decided that, you know what, I'm not going to talk about subjects and things that I don't necessarily have firsthand experience with, but I couldn't help but not talk about this. I couldn't help but to talk about this. And that's the similar correlations in Black men all over the globe. All over the world, the similarities that I see. If you would like to support this message first and foremost, once again, thank you to all contributors and channel members. You can, I just deleted my links. Donate to the PayPal and the Cash App right there. The links don't work. You can find them in the description box. Let's begin, ladies and gentlemen. Let's begin. The Conquered Black Man, the parallel comparisons of failed Black men from past and modern day around the world. I want to start with the video. You might not understand why I'm playing this video, but I'm going to start with the video. This video is significant because it's going to give us a firsthand look at something that we need to take a look at right now before we get into the main crux of the message. All right. Might be a little confusing, but bear with me. It's going to take a lot of setting up with this one, but it's going to be worth it in the end, as always. There is a prison called Angola, affectionately dubbed the Farm. You're going to hear why in a second. I'm going to play this clip for you. And you can hear why they named this prison Angola Prison. All right. Angola Prison. Some of you might be familiar geographically with Angola, Africa. Let me make sure I shared the audio. Forgive me. Hold on. I'm sorry, y'all. 50 people already in the building today. We're on a roll. We're on a roll, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Back to it. Why am I playing this? I'll explain. 1 second.
It's like a big plantation in days gone by. We hate to call it that in a way, but it kind of is because we have to, it's inmate prison.
All right. That was significant for a couple of reasons. All right. If you did not hear that, they call Angola Prison a plantation of days gone by. I'll rewind it one more time.
It's like a big plantation in days gone by. We hate to call it that in a way, but it kind of is because we have to, it's inmate prison.
We continue.
I have a total of about 5,000 inmates. The reason it's named Angola is because the slaves that worked these fields came from Angola in Africa, and it picked up its name from there.
The reason they call that Angola Prison is because the slaves that work those fields came from Africa. All right. I want you to keep that in mind as we go ahead and dive into our message today. The effects that hearing about your ancestors of enslavement, actually, you know what? We're not going to stop there. There's something very pervasive within every continent on the globe. All right. Something very interesting that I discovered in my research for this video. Wherever Black men are present, among other races of men, they are last. In every single society where there are Asian, Black, Latino, white men, Black men are last. Last in economics, last in education, last in everything. Right? In this very continent, Africa that we're going to talk about, which is mostly black. It has the highest amount of poverty per 1,000 people. All right. Not to mention that Africa is currently being taken over by China as they continue to invest, build, and incentivize the African people into supporting Chinese products and infrastructure. Let's go ahead and deep dive into the brutal, honest truth of the conquered black man. I can remember the first time I heard about the slave trade in my history class. I think I was in 4th or 5th grade. Obviously, my parents had talked to me in the past, but it hit differently as I was the only black kid in a class full of whites. I remember feeling the burning gazes of my classmates pierce the rear of my skull as some of the horrors that my ancestors faced were verbalized by my 5th grade teacher, Mrs. Hess. I intimately remember thinking to myself, why was I a part of the group of people that were known as slaves? Quite frankly, it was embarrassing and humiliating, right? I recall wanting to get through this part of history as soon as possible. Fortunately for me, it was pretty quick. Section only lasted a couple of days. And we had that every year up until I graduated high school. But I always had one question that I never knew the answer to until now. And that was, why wasn't there a single slave ship? Why wasn't there a single rescue ship sent to the slaves that had departed from the motherland Africa to rescue them? Not a single ship came to help. The effects that hearing about your ancestors' enslavement can have an insurmountable impression on a young mind. For one, it subconsciously makes you question your own race. For young girls, it can make them feel vulnerable and unprotected, especially if they have no father figure in majority of the households that seem to represent this statistic in Black America. As if our children aren't already vulnerable enough from the start of their lives, throw in the knowledge of previous millennia of failure, only showing them that they are unfortunately a part of the least progressive community in the history of mankind. No fault of their own, the conquerors write history that silences the conquered's voice. I want you to hear something. This clip was sent to me by Toni Morrison. You're going to listen to a clip that is shocking. You're going to listen to something that is utterly horrifying. But in order for us to get through this stream, in order for us to understand and make sense of everything that we're going to talk about after this, I need you to listen to what YouTuber Nyla Says channel had on a live stream. She spoke with a black man. Once again, huge shout out to Toni Morrison. And this black man said something that was so evil that it made sense to why there weren't any rescue ships sent over to the slaves when they left Africa. It made sense to me. I'm going to drop Nyla Says channel in the chat. If you'd like to subscribe to Nyla Says, then definitely leave her a subscription. She has interesting content. This is going to be one of the most shocking clips I think I've ever played on this channel. But everything that we say about the Manosphere is going to be represented in this short few seconds. Prepare yourselves. Prepare yourselves. This caller wanted to explain why he felt that black women ruined the black community. Let's take a listen.
Planning on where you guys, where's this empire? No, I'm just asking, where's the empire at? Where's the empire? Where are you going to build it at?
We got to start something. You got to start something.
But I'm asking, where are you going to build it at? Where is this empire going to be at? In America?
It could be.
Well, how? So explain how you're going to do this without the white man.
Without the white man?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
without black women. Without black women and without the white man, how are you going to build this?
We don't need black women.
Okay.
But I'm gonna be honest with you. I feel like before we get to that point, black men got to come together, stop killing each other, and point their guns to the real enemy.
And who's the real enemy?
And the white man.
The black woman. So y'all need to kill black women.
Yeah, black women. The new black women of the old ways need to be sacrificed.
We need to be sacrificed. Okay.
The new black women all need to be sacrificed. You heard that correct. Once again, this is brought to us by Toni Morrison and Nyla Says on this channel. I'm going to rewind this in case you didn't hear, in case you're just not joining. This is a black man of the Manosphere. This is the reason that we make these videos. This is the reason why I started making these videos and why we have the community that we have, is because of men like this. This is the reason why we were sold into slavery, is because of men like this, perpetrators of hatred, perpetrators of evilness, of malevolence against their own people, who seem to find every fault with black women instead of themselves, who led themselves into the madness that they're facing and experiencing right now. Let's rewind this. Not make this up.
But I'm asking, where are you going to build it at? Where is this empire going to be at? In America?
It could be.
Well, how? So explain how you're going to do this without the white man.
Without the white man?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest
without black women. Without black women and without the white man, how are you going to build this?
We don't need black women.
Okay.
But I'm gonna be honest with you. Is I feel like before we get to that point, black men got to come together, stop killing each other, and point their guns to the real enemy.
And who's the real enemy?
And the white man.
The black woman. So y'all need to kill black women?
Yes, black women. The new black women of the old ways need to be sacrificed.
We need to be sacrificed. Okay. Okay. We need to be.
The new black woman needs to be sacrificed. Let's continue on with our broadcast. A black man vowed that he would start a militia to begin killing black women, which in his mind is the reason to which the black community is in the state it is right now. Aside from the normalcy of black men asking and putting the responsibility of the community's burden on the women, the fact that a man found so much resentment that he pledges to start a militia to kill women is absolutely insane. Unfortunately, this is not a 1 person or 1,000 person issue. We're still starting to see that this is going to grow into a 1 million person issue, predominantly with black men in the black manosphere. It is insane to me that most black men will listen to this message and only derive that somehow I am the force against them. I am the force against the black people. It doesn't surprise me, though. Just as George Zimmerman continues to walk around free and liberated, it doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me that they have all the smoke for black women, yet none for the police officers that they claim to be so afflicted by. It doesn't surprise me that even though our community has the most violent offenders per 1,000, they remain by and large violent amongst themselves and not their oppressors, quote unquote, killing and jailing themselves, just as their ancestors of days past killed and jailed themselves by selling their own into slavery. I have a question. What other country or continent have you heard where they kidnap an entire village of young girls, chop their limbs off, mutilate, rape, and kill them? A lot of these Negroids in America are pro-black, but I've never heard of a single one of them speak on real black issues, whether that be mainland or the homeland, which they claim to be. Hotep, right? ADOS, African descendants of slaves. They're all ADOS. I don't hear any of them talking about the real African issues. Somehow, in a twisted way, abusing women online now makes you pro-black in the black manosphere. This shows you how dim-witted Negroids are. No unity, no collectivity, unless there is immediate destruction. This is the reason why the black man will never unify for progressing towards a positive, more economically advantageous position. Advantageous. It is quite literally in their DNA to remain crabs in a barrel. Slave masters used to reward slaves for informing them in regards to the possibility of insurrection or escape, comparable to judges and court systems of modern day offering gang members a plea deal for telling on the one who deemed himself the ringleader. The incentive for a black man or blacks to remain unified has always been too much to resist. I'm sorry. The incentive for blacks to remain ununified has always been too much to resist. I'll explain what I mean in a second. It's quite literally the reason why most blacks in the United States are here to begin with. The slavers paid well enough for your ancestors to be betrayed by their own, well enough for that gang member to sell at his own as he takes the stand against him. Now, one thing that my homelessness really brought to light was the fact that I had no community to turn to. Bear with me. I have to set this entire discussion up. The black men didn't care. They didn't even think about caring about my plight. I remember standing outside of a gas station begging for a 50-cent bag of chips, and there was no black man that shared my skin tone who decided to help me. I remember thinking to myself, if my own people don't have my back, who will? This wasn't the only time that I begged for money. I can tell you other races of men, by the way, helped me a lot more than black men did. Almost as if other races of men were more sympathetic to my problems and understood just how hard I would have it inside of my own community. They asked me whether or not I had a job, how I became homeless because I seemed like a nice, smart kid. I even had a white man offer me a job with this company, but I didn't have a driver's license at the time and I had too many tickets and warrants to pay off, so my license was suspended. Yet I suppose the white man was my true oppressor in that situation. You see, when I was at the bottom, it wasn't just the fact that other races of men supported me more than my own race, but it was also the lack of humanity and compassion that I faced when asking my own race for help. Often a joke would be cracked, or they would simply outright ignore me as if I hadn't spoken with them to begin with. Maybe if I was a Middle Easterner, the fellow Middle Easterners who owned all the gas stations in the hood would have let me grab a bag of chips in the spirit of brotherhood. Maybe if I was white, the owners of all the gas stations in suburbia would identify with me as one of his own, likening me to one of his cousins, sons, nephews, brothers, and would spot me on a large fountain drink as I thirsted in the 110-degree heat with my car and no AC. But I wasn't either of those races. I was a part of the race of men that owns no gas stations, no businesses, and has no hope or pride for their own community. It was at this moment in my homelessness that I had a paradigm shift in my mindset and my thoughts as they relayed to my fellow Black men. You see, the Angolans and the other tribes in Africa were the ones that sold the Africans and the Angolan people to slave traders, which led them to having slaves, at least led to whites having slaves. The Black men in the prison institution sold themselves in the same plantation that their ancestors were sold into by their own people. This is why I say that the Black man is the newest face of white supremacy. They, by and large, conquer their communities with violence and crime, relegating themselves as their own oppressors as they are transferred into the same plantation that their ancestors, of which by the same hands, sold their own into slavery. Stick with me. The warden of Angola didn't put Black men in prison. They simply found a way to monetize Black men's deviousness, just like they did in the slave trade. Black men are still failing their people to this day and selling their women and their pride online. Only this time, YouTube viewers and subscribers is the currency that has proved its worth to them. I think the number one thing that hateful Black men tend to say is, well, what about Reagan? What about the crack era? What about the war on drugs? What about the innocent police convictions? What about police brutality? What about 1960? What about Columbus sailing the ocean blue in 1492? None of these particular events had anything to do with me asking my fellow Black man for a 50-cent bag of chips at the gas station. You see, one of the biggest issues that I have with Black men whom oppose me is the fact that they only use history and statistics when it benefits them. Just look at the past few live streams and you can see men asking me why women aren't like the 60s. Same talking points day after day, month after month, year after year. They'll never change. What about the police dogs that also ripped our women apart? What about the Klansmen that they allowed to burn their homes, bomb their communities, and kill their children? What about the Blacks who sold their fellow brothers to their conquerors? These are all questions that will be met with severe backlash by the Manosphere. But since Black men in the Manosphere always love to bring up history, let's talk about some history. Let's talk about the Black community's biggest threat, their fellow Black man. Bear with me. Before we do, a message from our sponsors. Today's video is sponsored by Unique Boutique Candles and Jazzy's Fashion. Join the mailing list for 25% off your first purchase with Unique Boutique Candles, and follow Unique Boutique Candles on Instagram at instagram.com/Unique Boutique Candles. Keep up with the latest scents and fragrances that are sure to set the mood. Also, check out Jazzy's Fashion for the latest, I put a typo here, greatest garments and accessories for women. Jazzy goes live on her Facebook page, by the way, and does a virtual shopping type of video every few days, and it's actually kind of fun. You can shop online on her Facebook page. I'm going to put all these links in the chat box. Let's move on with our discussion. I have to set this one up for y'all. One interesting facet about the slave trade is that the white man never really murdered Blacks when they came to Africa. That was done by Black men. The stealing was done by Africans. The reason that white people got slaves to begin with was because Black people gave their own people up. Bear with me. On the contrary, white men realized and saw a potential business opportunity. They knew that the resources that they provided for African slave traders was too much for them to resist, even if it meant selling out their own, i.e. Kevin Samuels. And what is Africa's biggest problem today? Well, with most of the world's resources in regards to precious metals, gases, and fossil fuels, the continent remains one of the poorest in relation to the amount of wealth that the land produces. I have a picture to show you this really quickly. I'll open up the panel here in a bit. Just have to make sure that we set this up appropriately. I have a picture to show you. Very interesting picture. This is a picture of the poorest countries in the world. And I want you to see how many of them are predominantly black. I want you to see how many of them are predominantly black. That's a list of the 25 poorest countries in the world. A country with the most economic natural resources, gases, gold, diamonds, copper, silver, and they have almost 90% of the poorest countries in the world. Why is that? Why is that? Mind blowing. It truly is. I'll tell you why. Corruption has always been plagued to the people of Africa. Their leaders, presidents, and political parties to this day remain separated, warring with nearby countries over money and power. Just as the modern day black men in America war with nearby streets and hood to control the limited amount of resources in their communities. A very direct parallel. You see, one of the biggest things I want you to understand from the stream is that black men always like to play the victim, claiming that the injustices against them were done by the evil white man, when in every single instance, the injustices can have a similar starting point, a similar ground zero point, and we can identify identify with it being black men. We can identify with everything that's been oppressive towards black people, starting with black men. You see, if the slave traders decided to come to Africa and try and round up a bunch of slaves and the black tribes, the black countries stuck together and decided not to sell anybody out, there'd probably be a lot less people of color in America, South America, and Central America, because the slaves did go to all three, I don't know if it's continents, but you know what I mean, right? But what black people did is something that very few other races of people did. You see, the Native Americans, when white men came over, decided to fight, right? They decided to preserve their legacy, their history, their family. They decided to die for their own. When the British tried to come over and enslave the Americans decided to fight, right? But when whites, another race altogether, came to try and take black people by and large sold their own. Just as black men of present day kill their own, just as black men of present day afflict their own communities. You see, these are two different continents, but really we're seeing the same trends happen in both sides of the hemisphere right now. Somehow, after being blessed with the world's most vast array of resources, the continent of Africa is still run by white and Asian economic infrastructure. You want to know why? I'll show you why. I'll tell you why. There's something that black men always say, and it's like, well, you need to follow, you need to submit. Black men are really obsessed with submission and things of that nature. But time after time after time, history has revealed itself and shown us that even when they have the resources and the ability to lead, to build something productive, they don't do it. I.e., the black men that complain or are happy with making $30,000 or $40,000 in the richest country in the world, right? There's a trend amongst black men that's very disturbing, and that's that they accept mediocrity to failure. They're perfectly okay with that. Other races will come to Africa, will come to see all the resources, and they'll plunder, they'll build for their own, just as the Chinese are doing right now in Africa. But for some reason, black men, regardless of where they are in the world, can't seem to get their foot on proper, firm ground to make themselves a worldwide economic powerhouse. Every other race can do this right now. Huh. Black American males live in the most wealthy country in the world and still have the most poor communities, just as the Africans live in the most economically advantageous land and still have 25 or 20 of the 25 most poor countries in the world. Let's talk about something for a second. Let's shift gears. I want to talk about the modern day Libyan slave trade, and we're going to start talking about the conquering of the black man. Now, we know that the black man conquered himself, but let's talk about the conquering of the black man. All right. That's right. The Libyan slave trade, a time when in 2017, we discovered that black people are still being taken as slaves. All right. Now, I'm going to explain the situation to you because this is somewhat mind boggling, and I need to break this down. The Libyan slave trade. Here's what you need. Let's rewind this. Hold on, we're buffering. We are buffering right now, and I don't know why. All right. Well, we'll just say this. Hundreds of African refugees are being reportedly sold in slave markets in Libya. This video cannot be played, of course, naturally. So I'll just explain it to you. What's happened is the Libyans, which are pretty much Arabic people, decided to take Africans who were trying to get out of Africa and go to Europe and turn them into slaves. $10 super chat. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat from Osondi Owendi. Let's not forget that the leaders of African countries are black and male, so the leadership is questionable. Absolutely. Absolutely. Certain parts of Africa are in very bad conditions, and so a lot of Africans are trying to travel to Europe. Along the way, they're either tricked into slavery or they're tricked into captivity, and they're sold to the Libyans. Libya is also in Africa. Okay, Libya is also in Africa, but let me refresh this page. But somehow African people were enslaved in Africa. Let that first make sense to you. Okay, I'm not sure how that's possible. Refugees seeking to leave certain parts of Africa were either kidnapped or sold into slavery in Libya. Essentially, some of the Africa parts, once again, are so messed up that hundreds of thousands of people risk their lives to sail by boats to Europe to escape the madness in Africa in some parts of it, right? Not all parts of Africa are bad. Some parts are pretty bad. Just like the boat analogy that we talked about earlier, the boat not being sent to rescue the slaves that were transported to America, there was no invasion from any African country to rescue the Africans who were being enslaved in Libya. Right? The rope of desperation has replaced their iron chains, this quote says. Africans are now sending themselves to Europe and becoming slaves in the process. When CNN aired this footage of what appeared to be African migrants being sold at a slave auction at a Libyan detention center camp in 2017, the outrage was immediately global. The UN Security Council condemned the heinous abuses. The EU demanded swift action. And French President Emmanuel Macron called for military rescue operation. That's right. The white Zaddy oppressor tried to rescue because the hundreds of millions of African men that were on the same continent couldn't collectively invade the country to free their own people. Let me turn my air down real quick because I'm like on fire. Hold on. I'll be right back. Give me 1 second. All right, I'm back. Nelly says, are they becoming enslaved or indentured servants? There's a big difference. Not really, but we'll just say both. So out of the hundreds of millions, nearly 1 billion people in Africa, one country somehow was able to enslave Black people in a predominantly Black country. Okay, we'll try and make sense of that. $10 super chat from, goodness, I'm going to try and say this right. Forgive me. Zara Greenidge, where is your email? I'd like to send you something that maybe you can come back with your opinion. Yeah, it's in the about section of my YouTube channel, but I'll type it in the chat box for you right here. There you go. TheHonestTruthYT@gmail.com. Right? Emmanuel Macron, the president of, France, decided to invade. Just a year on, little has been done to prevent these abuses. EU member states are renewing calls to halt the Europe-bound migrants at the Libyan coastline. The situation for refugees and migrants in Libya remains bleak, says Iba Mouriaf, Middle East and North African director for the Amnesty International. Cruel policies by the EU stop people from coming, blah, blah, blah. People are trapped in Libya. So once again, how does one country manage to hold the hostage of the people that encompass the entire continent? That leads me to my next point. We have the quote of the day, the comment of the day brought to us by Godfrey, a pro-Black comedian. All right, let's look at this really quickly. Let's look at this. Some of you know who Godfrey is, some of you don't, but this was left on Miss Elite's YouTube channel. A Black woman said, Black males can keep crying. I won't stop, and neither will my best friends. We love it here. She was speaking about divestment and things of that nature. Godfrey said this, you take your traumatized bed wench ass somewhere else. You misunderstood the message, but at least we know you've been hurt by Black men, so you decided to go back to slave masters to prove something. We don't need you type Negroids anyway. That's what Godfrey said. Once again, I want to remind you who it was that tried to rescue the Black people who are being enslaved in their own country. It was a white man. Just as Goldman Sachs was trying to economically progress Black women, it was a white man. Just as multimedia outlets, mainstream media outlets decided to start pushing a supporting Black agenda to help you Negroids who claim that you're so afflicted by police. It was white men who owned these channels. But somehow Godfrey has it twisted in his mind that because Black women understand and see that white men are willing to help them more than Black men are, that makes them bed wenches, right? That makes them bed wenches. Once again, Black men have no interest in building up their communities. They have no interest in going back to actually save and help those children who are born in dilapidated environments. They have no interest in rescuing their own, even though they might be enslaved in the same country, in the same area of them. They see no benefit to this. They only seek to make a better life for themselves, effing the rest of the community. They are effectively on their own. Now, obviously, the situation in Africa is a bit different, but the similarities are the same. Even in a land of vast economic resources and wealth, Blacks are dead last. Africa literally sits on, once again, the most vast amount of resources and are dead last. They had the opportunity to build one of the world's largest unified militaristic systems, seeing as they are an entire continent with similar looking people. They had the largest potential for economic prosperity and trade relations, but they wasted hundreds of years in civil wars while their own resources were being plundered by races of men who stuck together. But instead of banding together, the black man has decided to conquer himself. TheBigSmoke.com says this. Elsewhere in Africa, however, Libya isn't the only African nation where slavery is taking place. An estimated 10 to 20% of the population in Mauritania are enslaved. The centuries-old practice continues, despite being outlawed in 1981. The Sudanese Civil War, which raged between 1983 and 2005, led to a resurgence in slavery in that country. And despite war coming to an end over a decade ago, there are still pockets of Sudan where the practice is still being carried out. I have a serious question. I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that. The reason why the white man has to intervene to try and free the slaves in Libya is because that black people, by and large, black men, by and large, have always taken an active part in selling out their own people. The black race is the only race of people that's continually sold its own people, the black males, since the beginning of time. No sense of pride, leadership. Just as the leaders reflect today, just as the black males in the black American community reflect today. The black male's culture, by and large, is nothing other than pure degeneracy, which other races mock and laugh at us for. Now, the hatred and malevolence towards black women makes so much more sense when you take a look at the history of black people by and large. Black men have always sold out their own. 2021 is no different. It's ingrained within them, hardwired into their brains to continue the slavery that has been implanted into their DNA by ancestors of days past. This is why Kevin Samuels has exploded with such growth and popularity. What you are witnessing is a modern day slave auctioning. And the black men love it. It feeds them to their core. They get a high from watching the denigration of their own people, just as the days past ancestors got a high from selling their own people to the slave ships to be transferred to America. If the price is right, the black man has no problem, no matter what part or country of the world, of selling his own people. That's the reason why 95% of the poorest countries in the world are black. Because if the money's right, there is no loyalty amongst black people. They get a high for the denigration of black women, just as they get a high from listening to murderous rap music. They get a high from killing their own, both literally and metaphorically online. Just like the slavers of days past. The black man actively conquers his own community and himself. Until there's a turning back on gang culture, murderous rap music, women bashing, and well, that's not going to even happen. Black men will continue to claim that they were kings. I saw a comment that said this. Listen, just because you're in Africa doesn't mean you were a king. You were just a normal citizen. Not every single person walking around was a king. Okay, that kind of defeats the purpose of a king. Now, I know that Negroids are going to say, well, true slavery exists in other countries. Slavery is on other continents. It wasn't just black people that were slaves. And you know what? I'm glad you said that. You're right. I decided to go ahead and research so we can cut off that point for you really quickly. Let's go ahead and look at the largest amount of slaves per demographic. All right. So what you're looking at now is a picture that reflects the amount of slaves per demographic. And what do you notice is at the top? Slavery remains high in Africa, where 7.6 people, and this is a low estimate, by the way, are victims out of every 1,000 people. Asia and the Pacific are next with 6.1. This is why you see 20 out of, or maybe it was 22 out of 25 countries being countries in Africa. I think every single country that was the poorest country that we looked at earlier was a black country, though, right? The reason Asia and the Pacific is so high is because of North Korea, by the way, just FYI. You see, these numbers directly reflect everything that we talk about here on this channel. which is that the black man is not a good leader by and large, which is that the black man does not have the ability, the propensity to actually seek and build and start economic infrastructure and progress within their communities, even after being given the entire game plan. Even after me sitting here for hours on end telling them, telling you, telling other ignorant Negroids that come to this channel the best way to do it, the best way to build, to truly build for the community. They focus their issues on weaves, right? I've seen women comment on the channel from all other countries around the world saying, hey, you know what, Truth? What we're seeing in the US, everything that you talk about in the US, I have in the UK. We have Pseudo Africana Mommy talking about the same things that are happening in Africa right now, which is the reason I decided to actually research and start this video as well. There are women all around the world that I've gotten comments from and emails from saying, in my part of the world, the black men are just like the black men that you're talking about on your channel. So it's not just a United States thing that we're seeing here. And the numbers reflect that. Why is it that the white man was able to build the ships, to travel the seas, to discover, to build infrastructure, to gain technology? Why is it that the Asian men were able to develop countries and build and gain technologies and compete with the white man at their level? Why is it that the black man couldn't do that, even after being given more resources than all the other races combined? Why is that? I don't know why that is, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. I don't have a direct answer to that right now. But I do know that, and I'll open up the panel right now. I don't want to go too long on this. If you'd like to join the panel, you're more than welcome to join. I have a few more words to say. Maybe you can help me answer that question. Why is it that the black men seem to be the worst group of men in every single country and continent in the world? These are facts. Major Farmer says they are failures at leadership. One of our commenters just gave a reference to the leaders in Africa and how corrupt they are, right? I can't type and think at the same time. One says Africans divide themselves by tribes. Interesting. I don't know. It parallels black men no matter where they go. It doesn't matter if you're in Europe. It doesn't matter if you're in Antarctica. If there's black men amongst other races of men, black men will always be the very last. It doesn't matter if there's 100 other races of men, even if 100 races of men existed, black men, I'm convinced, would still be at the very bottom. Why is that? You can claim it's about white supremacy. You can claim it's about this. You can claim it's about the white man out to get you and this and that. But if that was the case, then why are all of the poorest countries in the world black? It's not the white man that's living in the poorest countries in the world predominantly. It's black people. So that lets me know that it's not just the evil, angry white man that's out to get you. The white man isn't the cause of all of our issues. We wouldn't even be over here if our ancestors didn't sell our other ancestors into slavery right now. We would still be in Africa. But somehow these Negroids have the audacity to call black women bed wenches, to call them refrigerators, to call them and insult them in all these other different types of ways. That same energy that they harbor for black women is the reason we got sold into slavery to begin with. Negroids like that are the reason that they decided to sell their own into slavery. Just as they continue to betray their own race in modern days time, in ancient days past, they did the same thing. They're keeping up the traditions of what was past white supremacy, right? Like I said, the white men didn't go to Africa murdering people left and right. All he did was bring resources and offer a business transaction, and that was enough for black men to sell their own people out. Regardless of not of whether they were separated by tribes and this and that, that's all fine and dandy. I get that. Maybe not everybody's the same. But at what point do black men start really recognizing that the main issue isn't with other races of men or black women, but with themselves? You see, even if the black women decided not to go into slavery at that time, unfortunately, the men were stronger and more powerful. They probably didn't have much of a say, right? I don't know. I don't have a direct answer for this. Learning IT says, THT, you got to play the Bruce Rivers clip again. Yeah, the Bruce Rivers clip was serious, huh? We'll check out the Bruce Rivers clip in a little bit here. Alexander, I see you here. Give me a couple minutes. I'm going to play a couple more things really quickly. Show a couple more pictures because I really want to drive this point home. These are the questions that we really need to be asking ourselves. This is a picture of the modern day slave trade in Libya. Let me blow this up. Why is it that in 2017, 2018, 2019, 2021, to beyond, why is it that black people still in their own lands have to face the same visceral hatred, the same crime that we face here in America? Why are the similarities so similar? This is a ship of people trying to leave Africa, some parts of Africa, because of the violence. They risk drowning. They risk a very tough travel to get to Europe, to get to the white man's land, the evil white man. The evil white man. They risk to get to the oppressor's land. But that just lets me know that it's not the oppressors that are really doing the oppressing. It's not the oppressors. There's something very wrong with black men. And once again, taking you back to my 5th grade, 4th grade class, I thought the same thing. Why didn't anybody go and help us? Why didn't our own people try and come to help us, try and rescue us? Once again, there is no unification amongst black men by and large, unless it's for destruction. Every other race is unified and built for themselves. Every single other race has done it, but the black male is the only race of males that can't seem to get their shit together around the whole world. The entire world. Toni Morrison says, deep down, black men believe in white supremacy. They're filled with self-hate, and it shows in the way that they hate each other and denigrate their women. Absolutely. Thank you for the $10 super chat, Toni Morrison. Alexander, we'll let you go in a little bit. Arsenal God, welcome back. Poor Man's Podcast, I see you in the building. Welcome back. I know you probably have a lot to say. Let's try.
Right. I'm going to talk about slavery and defend the UK. Yeah. Firstly, yeah, I heard what you said, and you waited until I was gone until you dust. But anyway, I'll save that for another time. But
Sure.
Slavery, sorry, what was I going to say? In Scotland, yeah, you had black kings, yeah, and the first man in the UK was called a Cheddarman. Go research it, yeah, a Cheddarman, yeah, archaeologist, yeah, will tell you was blonde hair, yeah, blue-eyed, black man, yeah, and like I said, you had kings, you had black kings of particularly of Scotland, yeah. And you had in the UK you had lords, yeah, and we went over to. By the way, you were so wrong on it because when we set up America, Yeah, the UK set America up. Yeah. So in other words, what they did was that they sent the criminals to the US and they gave the Arawak Indians. Sorry, they gave the indigenous Indians um, guns and they killed each other off. Yeah. They show
Okay.
you that in movies anyway. They show you that in movies anyway. Yeah.
Right.
In the
Right.
John Wayne movies. Yeah. They kind of do show you. Yeah. They
Okay.
gave it. Yeah. Um, and then they had then over years they had the war and America won and the British went back, but it is Britain that set up America because it was just the indigenous people that were there.
Okay. Okay. Well, Arsenal, that was very informative. Beijik wants to know, Arsenal, if you have a YouTube channel.
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, Arsenal, if you ever get a channel, you come back and you let us know. Okay? So we were kings essentially is at some point is what you're saying.
Yes, in the UK, yeah.
In the UK, we were kings.
I can't talk about whether there were any in the USA, but
Right.
if anybody comes to Scotland, you go and visit their museums. They show that, whereas in England they kind of have that undertone. They kind of have that they have that racism where they don't show it so much. But in Scotland, they show you there's pictures of black kings on thrones and white people as servants.
So what happened to the Black Kings, Arsenal? I'm curious. To the blue hair black. They were black, right? Blue hair, blonde.
No, yes,
blonde hair.
that's for the Cheddarmen. The Cheddarmen.
Cheddarmen. Okay.
Yeah,
what
was the
what
first,
happened to them?
Yeah, 10,000 years. Yeah.
10,000 years. Okay.
Yeah. So he's the first known human being. Yeah. And
He's
this
the
is
first human being, okay.
yeah. It was done in the UK on Channel 4. But if you type in Cheddarmen UK, it will come up.
So eventually they got overthrown or something.
Yeah. So I said he was the first known human being for the UK. Yeah.
Okay.
And they say that this is a documentary done by archaeologists.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well,
listen, Arsenal.
Apparently, even now, yeah,
mm-hmm.
people relate to the Cheddarmen, which is even weirder. So they did DNA and found that everybody has
okay
DNA that was born in the UK.
Oh, all right, Arsenal. Well, listen, I appreciate that info. We're gonna put you on mute for a second. It's very, 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 very interesting, Arsenal. Always interesting to have Arsenal God on the channel. Arsenal, you have some fans here. You have a few fans here. Always good to see you popping back up. Irregardless, I think the bigger point that I have to make to you, Arsenal, is that everything in the past is great, and I understand that maybe we really were kings. I don't know, Arsenal. Maybe we really were. However, we are a far cry from the past that you are mentioning right now. The honest truth about the matter is that black people, black males, are nowhere near kingdom-minded community right now. There are no kings that are crusading for black people, for black Africa, for black America at this point. The black community is in a very bad spot. And so I get that maybe they were kings in the past, but that was 10,000 years ago. And we're in 2021 once again, right? So I talk about the things that are happening now and how they parallel to what's happening inside of the United States. And what's happening in Africa is close in a lot of ways to what's happening in America. Right, the same trends that we see over there, we see over here, and so I get all that. I'm glad that that's all a part of history, but unfortunately, that has a little to do with what's going on right now. Arsenal God, right? So I just wanted to let you know that. Alexander Brennan, it's good to see you again, Alexander. What did you think about the entire discussion tonight? The black males who sell out themselves.
I think it's sad, and and really, it just proves that. I mean, it just proves that the black men on that was, back then, that
Mhm.
they're non-existent today, because they don't think about marriage. I mean, all they do is promote pump and dump, and make as many singles and many children that they can, but they won't marry the woman.
And Alexander, you're exactly right, and I'm glad you said that. They continue to still. Thank you for that comment, Alexander. They continue to still to this day, essentially sell out their own people. It's what we see time and time and time again. Um, Poor Man Podcast. To answer your question specifically, there are a good amount of people on this channel who are married. A good amount of them. A lot of them to black men as well. There's a few that are married to white men also. You can look at the comment section. I think the last live stream, there were two of them that are married to white men. They have their husbands in the picture. One of them was married for 27 years. I'll try and find that comment for you really quickly. But I'll let Jedi Mike speak really quickly. Jedi Mike, good to see you back on the panel. Then Moon, you can go after Jedi Mike while I look for this comment.
How you doing? Can you hear me?
Hey, good, Jedi. Yeah, we hear you perfectly, boss man.
Okay, cool. How you guys doing? Hey, everyone to the chat and stuff. But listen, like I understand in terms of the conversation that we're having here, and that people don't when you're hearing this narrative of talking about where we might used to been. But the problem I mentioned again, like the last time we were here, like how we just had the anniversary of Black Wall Street, how like we had a kind of foundation where we built everything, and yet we don't have that today. And I'm saying is like we're not nearly as built as the people that we claim. Like, okay, let's say we were those kings, but are we those kings today? And I think a lot of us, some of us are, but because a lot of us, some of us who have earned it, but a lot of us haven't earned it. We just think we just demand it because we are, and that's not, that's not how true masculinity and true integrity is built from. It's built from the hard work, dedication, faith, but also consistency. A lot of us are not consistent in terms of things we do nor what we say, and it's not in terms of saying that all black men generally do this, but most of us don't, because one, we don't really see consistency. But I said it starts with us. It's like a lot of us are not actually being the ones that are laying the foundation and blueprint to actually build those kingdoms that we say that we used to have. I'm saying that a lot of us, we're just building from the ground up. And also we even do it to a certain extent when we have some men who actually are building those up, we ridicule him, we call him out, we try to destroy him. And yet he's trying to do the same thing you claim that we need to be, but yet you're not supporting him. Like I said, we're not really kind of supporting each other. That's what we should, not enough as we should. And my thing is that in the future, what we should be building, not only in terms of relationship building, I said we should be rebuilding in terms of actual skills and things, that productive solutions in terms of actually healing, our community instead of destroying it. And a lot of us, some men out there are doing the work, but they'd be doing 10 times more if most of us will support each other. That's it.
Absolutely, Jedi Mike. So well said. So well said. Always great input from you, man. Poor Man's Podcast. This is a picture of one of our subscribers who's been married to her white man in the military for 27 years now. This was the video that I talked about why I'm a proud simp. The comment says, I've recently learned about the term simp when I made a video describing the love and respect that I have for my black wife that I've been married for 27 years. So strange a man can be shamed for having love and respect for women. So to answer your question, a lot of women on this channel are married, and a decent amount of them are actually married to white men as well. Moon, so good to see you on the panel, Moon. Jaleesa Monet is married as well. Jaleesa Monet is married as well. I know Jaleesa Monet personally, by the way. So B Candy is married as well. B Candy is married as well. Hello, Moon. Forgive me for my intrusion. The floor is yours.
No worries. Can everybody hear me? Fine?
Yeah, we hear you perfectly.
Okay. So I just wanted to share, because I can't obviously speak from a man's perspective. But a former job of mine, back when like Obama's second term, I used to travel internationally. So, and after my divorce, I traveled to South America, to Buenos Aires, and um, I got the same question from cab drivers on 3 continents, one in South America, one from Amsterdam, and one from Sweden. They all asked me the same thing.
Mm.
And the question was, why don't Black people go back to Africa and build it up? And
Mm.
that this was the time of the height of Obama. They saw him traveling the world, and we were talking about how educated we were, and it just made me, that has stuck with me for so long. And I just think about quickly how we talk about Black excellence. And I don't know, I mean, we have accomplished so much in this country, but this is another man's land. And
Exactly.
we continue to build on another man's land, thinking, we can really have some pull and some strength when we have a land that is overwhelming, abundant with riches and resources, that so much so that the second largest power in the world is cultivating it. Just sold a huge beach for $55 million in, I think it was Sierra Leone. I don't know. So
Yep.
I just want to just think about, I think we're in a unique place for African Americans in particular, and also in the UK, where we have the knowledge, we know how these countries work that we live in. And I think we can just help our brethren, you know what I mean? And we can create those. I don't know, I'm thinking big picture, but I don't know if our community is ready to even talk about big picture, because we're talking about
Yeah.
bonnets on the internet.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it would be in a perfect world, Moon. And so thank you so much for that comment. In a perfect world, yes, it would be nice to be able to go back and build up the communities. But at this point, I mean, a lot of places and states and countries in Africa are in a very bad position. Corruption is rampant in a lot of countries in Africa. Like we said earlier, there was the economic resources, there were the minerals, there was the gold, the diamonds, the gas, the oils. Africa has everything, but somehow it allowed itself to still be, per 1,000 people, the poorest continent in the world. And so it kind of goes back to the point to where when Black men even had the ability to truly progress economically, they've been given the most fertile, ripe land out of every other continent in the world, and they still didn't harvest excellence. They still didn't harvest greatness out of it. So
What about Mugabe? What about Mugabe? Look at what Mugabe's tried to do as a.
okay, one second, Arson. I know Mugabe. And so this is a similar trend that like the cab drivers that you spoke about. They see this as well. Every other race of people in the world sees how Black men have failed as a collective. Every other race sees this. This is why a lot of other races joke about their daughters not dating Black men. We've heard, and I've heard personally, Mexican and Latino women tell me that their fathers joke about, you can bring every other race home except for a Black man. Just don't bring a Black man home. They told me this a lot of the time because they would always tell me, you're different. You speak different. You sound different, right? And so they felt that they could share that with me, that I was one of their own, because I wasn't necessarily the prototypical, stereotypical Black man that their fathers, that their mothers hated, right? Every other race has a grudge against Black men naturally. This is just a fact, all right? Whether or not we choose to accept it, it's a fact nonetheless. We aren't seen as a type or a group of men that can come into a country, that can come into an area and be progressive and help that area or that country build. We're seen as a plague by and large, right? But there's a reason for this. The reason for this is because the numbers show that we as a people, under the leadership of Black males, are dead last in every single continent around the world. Like I said earlier, it doesn't matter what race. If there's any other race but Black people, they're going to be superior and above the race in education, economics, earning, businesses owned. We're consistently dead last in everything, whether that be in Africa or whether that be in America. And this is just a fact. This is the fact. You can't argue that 25 of the poorest countries in the world are all Black. So once again, black men always want to be the leaders, but when I give them brutal, hard, honest fact and truth in these numbers, and these true statistics and numbers, not no BS that you find on blackdemographics.com, Okay, you can look at a country like Africa and see what I'm talking about. Okay, not everywhere in Africa is poor. Zach, stay focused. The legend Zach, stay focused. For anybody who's seen the Pedospheric video, is here in the building. Zach, you had a lot of fans from that. I'll let you speak in 1 second. You can look at black communities inside of America and see the dilapidation. You can see the hoods. You can see the ghettos. We joke about getting out of the ghetto and moving into the white neighborhood when we get some money. We joke about that, but we know that there's truth in that. The similarities in America and Africa and every other area where black people are in, they ring true. There's something wrong with the leaders of black people. I don't care if they're African. I don't care if there's, I don't know, what are black people else? I mean, African Americans? I guess that's it, right? There's no more other black people. Maybe there are. One of you Negroid geographical majors will correct me, I'm sure. That's a fact. That's a fact. Black people are dead last. Let's go ahead and move on really quickly. L's in the chat room. L, what did you have to say? I haven't seen you before, so.
Sorry, I came here as EV last time, but
Okay.
you know, whenever you say something bad about black men, you're pretty much, you know, you're saying that about yourself, right?
I say this all the time. And L, I'll tell you a story. I say this all the time. When I walk into a store and I have my backpack on, a lot of the times the white people at the store will tell me to leave my backpack at the front of the store. Hey, sir, you're going to need to leave your backpack there. And I say, hey, not a problem. Not a problem. L, I don't like that. I have to do that. But I recognize that a good amount of my brothers have been convicted for theft, for petty theft, and things of that nature. I'm not going to get into the disparaging lack of economic resources that the hood doesn't provide for children because they're born in dilapidated areas and environments. I'm not going to talk about any of that right now, okay? The numbers are the numbers. There's a lot of black dudes that go to jail for theft and for violent offenses and things of that nature. We can't change that. All right. It's a stereotype that does ring true to some extent in America. So when they see me, I fit that stereotype. Do I like it? No. But is there some truth to it? Yes, there is. Unfortunately, at some point or another, there's probably a black dude with dreadlocks that had a backpack that decided to take some stuff out of the store. Do I like that? No, I don't like that, L. But that's what it is. For me, just completely blowing up or ignoring that, it would be wrong of me. I have to face that reality that I'm a part of a group of men who are stereotyped for what a good amount of them have done.
I agree.
Now, does that mean, thank you, does that mean that all black men steal? No, it doesn't. However, in a lot of cases, the shoe does fit. Okay, no, so no, I don't like that, L. I don't like that. Go ahead.
I agree. I agree. It's just that it's like we could. I mean,
listen, I hear what you're saying, and I'll stop you here because I want to move on really quickly. I hear what you're saying. It's kind of like, okay, well, what are we supposed to do exactly then? What are we supposed to do? Well, there is no quick solution or fix to this answer. There's no quick solution or fix. There's something intrinsically wrong. And this is very deep and powerful to say this. I hate to even say this, but there's something intrinsically wrong with black men, with most black men. Okay. When everybody had the ability to start fresh and there were no ships on the waters and everybody had the ability to discover electricity, to discover wood, to discover whatever it might have been, certain races decided to push themselves day after day, year after year, and take all the resources they had to build, to advance, to sail the world, to explore the world before other races did. Now, maybe that doesn't make a country or people wrong in essence, because hey, if you want to live in simplicity, that's all cool. If you want to live in certain environments and areas, I'm all for it. I understand cultures are different. However, like we talked about earlier on this video, we're talking about a group of people that have for millennia sold off their own people for money by and large, and still to this day enact the same type of activities that our past ancestors did. Right? I'm talking about black men of modern day antagonizing the black community. I'm talking about the black Negroids who come onto my page to send me death threats and things of that nature. Black men have a sophisticated, no, it's not even sophisticated. Black men have a fixation on removing themselves for some reason off of the face of the earth. Like, no other race really, except for like North Korea, really, no other race really has this fixation of removing their own people off of the planet. you don't hear any other race of people that sell their own people into slavery. Now, yeah, you might hear about China and their labor camps and this and that. It might be strict. And you have North Korea, right? But no other people are going actively and enslaving their own people. This is a very, very, very profound, I hate to say profound.
Practice.
This is a very, very disturbing trend that happens amongst black people. Now, today we've modernized it into rap, gang banging, the hood, no snitching, no justice in the streets. We've changed it around a little bit, but essentially we're still doing what those people who sold us to the white man did. It's just in a different way now, right?
Can I say something? Why? I agree that black men are a plague, but so are black women in the same sense.
How are so let me ask you something.
Or a parasite, plague, whatever you want to say. Parasite.
So let me ask you something. Women are a parasite and a plague, right? Okay, women are a parasite and plague. How is it that you think that the women are a parasite and a plague in this case? I want to hear this.
Well, they're the ones who get the most welfare benefits. Black men generally can't get sick.
All right, we're not talking about welfare right now. Not one single time have I talked about welfare, L. I'm going to mute you here because now we're going to start to get into ignorance, okay? Black women were not the ones that sold black people into slavery to the white man, okay? Mind you, let me also remind you that the woman who's responsible for you and your ancestors even surviving for you to speak on the white man's platform right now was a black woman named Harriet Tubman, all right? Why was it that a black woman had to be the ones to start the underground infrastructure known as the Underground Railroad to sneak slaves out? You see, this is the thing about you manospheric men. You bite the same hand that feeds you, quite literally. And this is something I talked about in the last live stream. When things finally come crashing down on you, you'll have no other community to turn to, because in every breath, at every turn of the corner, you continue to begrudge and viscerally admonish the same group of people that are going to ultimately be the only ones to have your back at the end of the day, because no other race will ever see you the way that your woman sees you. And you still, to this day, will never understand that.
Well, I'm not talking about back then. I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about all kinds of times. It wasn't black women that collectively got together and decided that they wanted to start selling black people into slavery. That was black men. Okay, it wasn't black women. Black women have stuck by black men's side through the failed leadership of black men for millennia. So for you to bring in something as trivial as food stamps, when we know most black women didn't have a father or a masculine figure in the household to provide the traditional masculine role in the family. God forbid that they need help outside of the black man, the most failed group of men on the planet. God forbid they need some damn help. For you to bring something as trivial and as stupid as that is really, 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 really low and really mind-numbing logic, if I'm just being completely honest with you.
Trivial and astute.
It has no relation to food stamps.
I'm talking about now. I'm not talking about back then.
I'm not talking about just now, but food stamps have no relation to the point of where black people have gotten from 1400 pre-slavery to 2021. Food stamps is not even a grain of sand on all of the world's beaches in comparison to the issue that black men have presented. Food stamps.
Isn't that welfare?
All right, L, I'm going to mute you for now. I'll take you down. If you keep interrupting, I'm going to kick you off. I'll mute you for now. We'll come back to your food stamp argument in a little bit. Stampitis is in the building. First and foremost, I got to give a huge shout out to somebody that just donated on Cash App. I appreciate your donations. Thank you, Naeem. Also, I missed a $5 super chat. $5 super chats from the Red Lens says, some of us don't hate your dreads and support you, my man. I appreciate you, the Red Lens. Red Lens, I saw you on Donovan Sharp's stream earlier today. I was watching his CME stream and the success that he had. It's good to see you on our channel. I hope that you can appreciate the words that I'm saying just as much as you appreciate Donovan Sharp. Either way, I appreciate you being on this channel. Not all white people are evil, and make no mistake about it. Most white people want black people to do better at this point in time. But it's the black people, it's the black men who continue to afflict our community. We'll always stand by this. This is just a fact. Black people are tired of driving through horrible communities in the country that they see as theirs. They'll do as much as they can to try and help out if they see that their help is actually going towards a worthwhile cause. Just like that black man that tried to give me a job when I was homeless and I was begging for money at the Quick Trip. He asked me if I could work for him. He offered me a job. There was no black man outside that would offer me a job. No black man even gave me 50 cents. Okay, I'm gonna put things in perspective for you. A white man was the one that looked at me, said, "Hey, do you need a hotel room for a couple nights? Do you need money? Let me fill up your gas tank." My car needed to be charged at the time. This was a 75-year-old white dude, right? He could have thought I was trying to rob him. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. My car stopped on the side of the road. I walked half a mile to the Quick Trip, and I said, "Man, either I'm about to start asking people for money. I'm just gonna dig for a sandwich out of the trash, and then go back and go to sleep in my car in the 110-degree weather in Texas." So I finally walked up to this one white guy. He looked at me for a second. He said, "What's going on?" I said, "Man, I'm just having a hard time. Just having a hard time." Right? Took me back to the car, gave me some money, offered me a job, gave me his phone number, this and that. I couldn't take it. But like I always say, it's the infrastructure that we as black people lack. There are no jobs for a black man to offer me to put me into a better position immediately. Right? We as the black people have been free for I don't know how long we've been free in America, but still the upwards mobility and progression is not moving as quickly as it needs to.
Can I answer that?
No. It's not moving as quickly as it needs to. I'm tired of all you Negroes coming on here and saying, "Oh, it's the black woman that's slowing our progression. It's the black woman. It's the black this." Listen, it was a black prostitute that let me sleep and get out of the 110, 115-degree hot car when my car was overheating. It was a black woman who was a prostitute who sold her body who let me chill in her hotel room for 2 years straight. It was a black prostitute. The same type of woman you Negroids would sit and demonize online was the one who showed me ultimate compassion, ultimate love, ultimate loyalty. From the men who would choose to lay down with her and pay her, she would buy me something to eat. You see, there's something very evil. There's something very evil at hand when the ones that we demonize end up being more compassionate than the ones who are judging them to begin with. Judge not lest thee or ye be judged. Right? Something like that. The woman that ultimately ended up saving my life for 2 years was somebody that the black manosphere would burn at the stake. But at the same breath, none of these niggas gave me a dime. None of these niggas gave me a dime. I have a $5 super chat. Let me read this really quickly before I continue. Kiana says most of the suffering from desert tick. Yeah, definitely. Most of these black men are just very centrally frustrated, for sure. Very centrally frustrated. It's just amazing because you know what I realized at that point? I realized at that point when I was sitting inside of that prostitute's room, and I don't want to say her name. I say prostitute, and I don't try and say that begrudgingly because I don't judge anybody. I don't have that ability. I'm not God. I'm another human being just as she is. That was just her profession. But it's so fascinating. The same thing that I said earlier, black men end up destroying the same community that if worse comes to worse, they're going to have to fall back and rely on, just as I had to fall back and rely on. Because you know what? If I had black men specifically to rely on and have my back, I would have been in a very bad position. I'd have been in a very bad position. Black women were the ones who helped me out more than black men. Much more than black men. There was always an animosity when I was down in the hood gas stations and I would try and talk to my fellow brethren. There's always just this tension with black men. You can't just smile and have a decent conversation with most black men. They'll look at you like you're crazy. Nigga, who you looking at, nigga? Who are you, nigga? What you want, nigga? Even if it's not a black man that's really out there like that, that's not really hood figure mob type mentality. There's not an immediate friendship that black men have with other black men when you see another black man. It's always a question that we have when we meet another black man. Who is this guy? What is he all about? What are his intentions? Because most black men that I talk to, I see nothing of friendship or nothing that I can offer them, nothing that's offered up to me in a semblance of friendship. There's no Olive Garden branch that's given to us, right? Let's say Olive Garden branch, Olive Garden. I like Olive Garden, Italian food, whatever. There's no olive branch that's made. Most of the time when I'm talking to black men, I'm the one that says, hey man, I like your shoes. And I feel them out. I try and listen to them. I try and figure out what my brothers are thinking. I say that word very loosely. What are my brothers thinking? After all, we're all supposed to be unified against our oppressors, right? What are my brothers thinking? Jesus. Sorry about that. That's an Amber Alert. 1 second. Sherelle, the $5 super chat says, looking forward to the day when black women can garnish checks instead of getting food stamps. But we all know there's often no checks to garnish. Red Lens, definitely. My email is thehonesttruthyt@gmail.com. I'll put it in the chat box. I'll let the panel members go in a second. I'll continue to share a few stories from my homeless times, my interactions with black men. There was one group of black men who I tried to help. Right, I worked for free. They let me stay at their place because I was sleeping in my car. I worked for free, mixing and mastering. I might have told this story before. Right. I worked for free. They wanted to start charging me rent all of a sudden. I was living in the hood, very bad part of the hood, and I wasn't able to pay rent. Right. I had intentions of paying rent. I stood there and I said, you know what, guys, I can't pay rent. I can't do it right now. I've been working for free, mind you, for these hoodlums. After the entire situation, they started to track and hunt me down around the city to try and kill me because of a $100 payment. Fortunately, one of my clients was arguably one of the biggest. I don't want to say this because I don't want to incriminate myself. One of my clients was a very serious man, and he gave me active self-protection, and I didn't have any problems from then on. But I realized that the same people that I'm fighting so hard for in a New York second can flip on me for something as trivial as $100, right? Irregardless of everything I try to do for them, just as I try and do nowadays, I try and help black men, tell black men how to do better for themselves and how to do better for the community. They will always come onto my channel and spew hateful rhetoric and claim that I don't know what I'm talking about. That somehow I had the entire game misconstrued, that it's the black woman in their weave. That's the only problem that we face as a people. That's the only problem we face as a people. When around the entire damn globe, it's the same problem happening. Black men not being shit. Black men always putting the blame on somebody else other than themselves. Black men not leading. It's the same problems. Same problems. Stampitis. Well, welcome to the stream, Stampitis. I know you've waited to speak. The floor is yours, Stampy.
I was just curious because you telling your story reminds me a little bit of a personal story with me when my ex-wife kicked me out on the streets. And I was just kind of curious, like, if you don't want to share, that's fine. Like, did your girlfriend kick you out on the streets, and how does that make you feel?
No, my girlfriend didn't kick me out on the streets. Hold on 1 second. A huge shout out to someone who just donated on Cash App. Huge shout out to Jaleesa. Thank you so much, Jaleesa. $20 super Cash App from Jaleesa. Thank you so much. No, my ex didn't kick me out on the street. So I dated my ex-girlfriend for 4 years in college. I loved her. I had a good job at the time, and she was thank you so much for the Cash App donation. Once again, somebody just sent something. I can't see it. Asia for the Cash App donation. Thank you so much for the Cash App donation, Asia. So I dated her for 4 years, had a good job, eventually lost my good paying job, and realized that I wanted to start working for myself. Now, we were in a long distance relationship, and I was making so much money at the time that I could fly my girlfriend literally from Austin to Denton anytime I wanted to. I'd drive out there and pick her up every weekend. I'd fly her, whatever it might be. I just had money at the time, right? I didn't fly her. I'm lying. I drove pretty much the most part. Or I give her like a bus ticket. And so when I lost my good paying job, the strain started to get pretty significant on the relationship. And we made a promise to each other that when she graduated, we were going to move in together. Well, by the time she graduated, I was in a really bad position. Like, I was like, look, I'm glad you're graduating. Can we still move in together? Right. I was trying to be that weak 50-50 type guy, except in this case, it would have been like an 85% 85% her carrying the bills, right? Type guy. Cause I was trying to do music. I was trying to do this, trying to do that. And she said, you know what? I'm not going to do that. And she dumped me, right? She dumped me and she started dating a lot of other guys. And my heart was destroyed because in my mind, I looked at it that I did so much for this girl. I laid my life out for her. And when things got rough, she took off on me, right? Now I look back at it and I'm so thankful that she did that, because what she did as a woman is what I tell women of all races, no matter who they are, to do with their men. See, what I did is I failed to be the man that she fell in love with. I failed to be the man that was the type of guy that was on top of his game, that was making money, that was making plays, that was upholding himself to the type of traditional value that I expected to hold her to as well. Right? These men always talk about traditionalism. Well, I was that traditional guy. She didn't have to pay for anything. I really helped her as much as I could. And once I lost that edge to myself, she knew that she could find another guy that could give that to her. And so, did it hurt? Yes. Just like it hurts when I walk into stores and they tell me to put my backpack at the front. But I have to be real with myself and acknowledge that the brutal reality of the situation is that she had a reason to do what she did, just as the clerks at the store have a reason to do what they did. Do I like it? No. But she had a reason to do that. Now, 10 years later, I can look back on that with wisdom and say, you know what? She was right to do that. And I would tell my sisters, my cousins, the women in my family to do the same thing. I wouldn't want her to be with a bum type dude. And so a lot of guys take personal affliction, and then their hatred against women becomes a serious crusade in their lives. And for a long time, I was pretty angry. But I had to finally accept the fact that I was a failure as a dude. And until I accepted the fact that I wouldn't want my sister dating a guy like me or like what I used to be at that time, I would have continued to be a very hateful, evil person. And that's why I make these types of videos. You see, a lot of guys in the manosphere are very angry, deprived men. They're sad because a woman broke up with them. They're sad because a woman might have divorced them in some cases, but they never take a step back to look and analyze the situation and realize what exactly might have caused this, because it couldn't have just happened out of nowhere. Very rarely, seldom will it just happen out of nowhere. Does it happen? Yes, it does happen sometimes, but there's always a cause to the effect. And my cause was that I failed as a man. I had to be real and accept that. A lot of guys have a hard time being accountable with themselves. That keyword that we always use on the channel, being accountable with themselves and being honest with themselves and saying, you know what? I didn't do this right. I didn't do this well enough. And they got outbid in the competition. Listen, dating is a competition, man. I don't care what anybody says. America is a competition. Life is a competition. Even when it comes down to love can't pay bills, man. It still takes a competitive edge to be able to fulfill one's desires in socio-capitalistic America. And that comes to dating, that comes to marriage, that comes to everything. We're just in that type of country. If we were in communist Marxist Russia, then maybe it's a bit different. But we're in America right now. And so you can't get upset at people for wanting to have the best for their lives when they have one life to live. And that's what she did. I'll never be upset at her for that. I had to accept that I was.
It just sounds like you temporarily fell off. It doesn't sound like you were a bum or
Yeah. Yeah, I'll answer that. This is a great point, Stampy. Just give me 1 second. Let me just read the super chat. Black Woman Sisterhood with the $10 super chat says, great live as always. Quick question. Why do black men hate welfare so much when a lot of them were raised on welfare and when a lot of the mothers had no other options nor assistance provided by black men? Well, it's because ultimately welfare is another system that holds them accountable, just as the child support system is, just as the jail system is, just as every other system that they claim to be afflicted by. Welfare ultimately steps up to provide that masculine role and that masculine figure that black men, by and large, aren't able to provide for their own people. So they see it as competition, essentially. But moreover than that, they see it as light shining the skeletons in their dark closets. Because when welfare comes in and the woman says, you know what, if you don't want to be that guy, if you want to keep acting whatever, now listen, I understand that not all women are perfect. I'm sure there have been good men that have tried to be good men to the families and the women were at blame. I completely get that. I get that. However, we know that most of the reasons why people get divorced and why issues start in relationships is because of money. Money is the number one, and this is the statistics. You can look this up for yourself. Money is the number one breaker up of relationships and marriages, right? So when welfare comes in and the woman says, you know what, I actually can do, I don't know, relatively decent in comparison to where I was before. I don't need a man. That puts that pressure and the onus on the man to say, you know what, wow. Like, okay, so you don't need me? So what have I been doing the entire time? Now, just like my girlfriend broke up and left me, the way that a man can do better for himself is to recognize that, you know what, if she's comfortable with the welfare system, then that means that there's something very wrong here, because ultimately what the welfare system does is it steps up when there's no community that can help out the mothers, when there's no infrastructure that can help out the mothers. The white man said, you know what, we got to do something, because if we don't, then mothers and children are just going to go homeless and start dying, right? So that's what the welfare community is. Now, the Black Manosphere is always going to try and twist welfare up into something that Black people somehow manipulated to try and get over and make the white man's agenda come true and to fruition and things of that nature. That's not the case at all. It's not the case at all. Welfare is very much needed. My father grew up on welfare. Okay. The man that taught me grew up on welfare. A lot of, like you said, Black Women Sisterhood, the people that are watching this right now grew up on food stamps, right? Food stamps is a form of welfare. A lot of people watching this right now grew up in project housings and Section 8 and things of that nature, right? The fact of the matter is the Black community didn't have the economic resources necessary to provide stability in capitalistic America. So the white zaddy had to come in to provide that, and Black men are upset. $10 super chat from Organic Black. Thank you all so much. He said the fact that you were able to put your ego to the side and do some self-reflection and introspection, which a lot of people are unwilling to do, is the highest form of wisdom. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Organic Black. Huge contributor to the channel, Organic Black. Huge contributor. This is the job of every man. This is the job of every man. Now, Stampitis, going back to it, did I answer your question, Stampitis?
Yeah, you did. You pretty much, you were telling me your situation. I was like I said, it kind of reminds me of the situation I was in, except it was kind of different. She threw me out.
So she threw you out. She threw you out for no reason, Stampitis. I think we're all kind of curious to hear, because we know that you're.
It wasn't for no reason.
Okay, so what was the reason, Stampitis? I'm curious.
In the marriage, I guess you could say my fault was I'm condescending and very strict.
Oh,
and I mean, couldn't get into that, right? But I mean, as far as like every other category, take care of things, bills and stuff like that, I was on it. But
yeah, and Stampitis, I'm glad you said that. This is why I always say this. And we know that you're a well economically prospered Black man and that you are a severe minority. But this is what I always kind of go back to, and that's that these Black men in the manosphere seem to always think that women are just after their money, women are just after this, women are just after that, when that's not the case. When I say that a lot of Black men lack compassion and empathy, in a lot of cases, such as yourself, and I'm not saying this is you specifically, but when Black men do finally put themselves in the position in capitalistic America to be the main providers of the family, what's the number one thing you always hear them say? Well, I pay the bills, so you need to listen to me. Well, I'm this, and so you need to follow me, and I'm this, and I'm that. There's no empathy with a large portion of Black men, let alone Black men who are doing well in life. There's this God-like complex that because I know that I'm such a severe minority, I know I'm the prize. I know that she has to stay with me. And listen, if you have enough money, she might stay for a while. She might stay for a decent amount of time, depending on the money that you have. But at some point or another, every woman gets tired of being with the asshole. I know men like Donovan Sharp and Coach Greg Adams always talking about needing to hold masculine frame, be an asshole to women, treat women bad because of this and that. Listen, it's only going to go so far, man. Nobody likes being treated like a dirt rag. Nobody likes that. And I'm not saying you did that, Stampitis, but I want to use that point to really drive a message home, is that women at the end of the day are emotionally driven. They have feelings. They want men who are able to be masculine, but at the same time actually understand the way that they feel, to actually relate empathy and compassion with them, because they are emotional creatures at the end of the day. And so after a certain point, she's like, listen, I got enough money out of this. I'm done. Just like you working at a job, right? I liken it to working at a job where you're making a great amount of money. A lot of computer programmers can relate to this, right? Computer programming is a very stressful job. You make great money working for Google, but at the expense of your soul, essentially. I don't know how many of you have ever had a job where you got paid a lot of money. At some point or another, you walk into that job and you say, I don't give a damn if I never make another paycheck here again. I'm about to go and quit this job and go work at McDonald's. Because at a certain point, the money only means so much. The money only means so much.
Facts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate that, Stampitis. I appreciate that. I know I'm kind of ranting and raving, guys. I'm going to read a couple comments really quickly. 199 super chat sticker from Ozondi. Thank you so much, Ozondi. The money only means so much. Another aspect about the money in the Black community is that when we finally do get money in the Black community, going back to that, it's being so rare in the Black community that when Black men finally do get money, they hold on to it tight. They don't seek to build businesses. They don't seek to build infrastructure. They don't seek to build actual economic prosperity that can lend itself over generational wealth. We're not like any other race of people where the Mexicans come together, live in the same house, start businesses, where the Asians come together, come to America, save for a year in one bank account to start businesses, where the white man came to America, spread his power and influence and money all over the world. We're unlike all of them because we have such little economic fiduciary means and gains in America. We hold tighter than a crab holding something with his claw, I guess, which is pretty hard, I assume. That was a terrible analogy. But we hold tight to the money and we don't seek to spread into the community. We don't seek to build anything in the community. We become crabs in a barrel and we just take. This is why the Black community, this is why Black people make up 25 of the most poor countries in the world. This is why all 25 of them are Black. Because when Black people finally do get money, we don't build anything with it. Black men don't build anything with it. And it's not just in America. This is in every other country in the world. Black men don't build. They just don't. I don't know what it is about Black men, but they just don't seek to do that. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. So Stampitis, I want to ask you one more question. So did you know when you were in the relationship and you were being kind of aggro with her? Like, were you purposely trying to do it, or are you conscious of that, or was that just the way that you are? And are you a changed man now, Stampitis? Last question.
Quite honestly, yeah, I knew exactly what I was doing, but I did it for the better for her, if that makes sense, because like certain situations would pop up, especially when it came to money or decisions with the tenant. I'd be like, why didn't you know that? You should know that, because if I'm not around, then what's going to happen? It was more or less like that. Have I changed? Yes. I'm not I'm not as hard because I am and I'm not as hard, if that makes sense. So I've kind of learned from that.
Awesome. Well, we're glad to hear it, Stampitis. Glad to hear that. I want to go back. I think somebody wanted to say something. Arsenal, we'll come to you in a second. I just got to prepare mentally for you, Arsenal. I got to prepare mentally for you. L, it sounds like you agree with me on some things, L. It sounds like you agree with me on a lot of things. Right? It's just kind of hard to swallow the pills of truth that I'm saying or speaking on. Is that the problem that you have with me, L? L might have taken off.
Say that again.
So it sounds like you, and guys, if you want to join the panel, here's the link to join the panel. It sounds like you agree with a lot of the things I say on this channel. And so is it just that it's kind of hard to accept a lot of the things that I'm saying for you?
No, I agree, but I hate that you're just degrading Black men.
Well, so you agree with most of the stuff, but you hate that it's in such a maybe condescending way, in your opinion. I'm sorry.
I don't think it's in a really like in a condescending way. I just think that, hey, you're just not seeing both pictures, and you're just bagging on people who look like you, and it makes you look bad. So again, when you say something bad about Black men, you're saying something bad about yourself.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. I appreciate that commentary. Jaleesa Monet said, Black men need to educate themselves. Most of them don't have the generational wealth knowledge getting passed down to them like other races. We got to figure it out ourselves, but most Black men don't bother. I was watching a stream. We got to figure it out ourselves, but most Black men who doesn't owe you anything, I think your name is, make sure that your YouTube app is closed and that you're listening to this in the actual StreamYard broadcasting hub and center. I was watching this video of this guy testing people's diamonds in Miami, right? It's a hilarious video. And of course, everybody black, right? Naturally. And so he'll walk up to a group of black dudes and be like, man, how much did those chains cost y'all? And they'll be like, man, this was, $30,000, $20,000, $20,000, $15,000. And a lot of the times those chains are real. Now, there are guys on there who don't have the chains and they're like, oh, my chain's fake, yada, yada, yada. I don't have any smoke for those guys. Hey, listen, real diamonds, fake diamonds, nobody knows the difference unless you get a diamond tester. Now, I will say there are some chains I've seen that you can tell, okay, that's some real diamonds right there. I saw a white guy in Dallas one time with a VVS diamond grill. I was like, oh my God. But it behooved me that I was seeing these men aged 29, 30 to 35 to 40 years old walking around with 40, 30, $20,000 on their necks. And it wasn't just a few walking around these festivals. It was a decent amount of men. Once again, kind of coming back to that collective unity and actually building generational wealth, we black men by and large as a whole place more value in monetary possessions than they do in building wealth. They place more value in cars, jewelry, Jordans, Nikes, clothes, things of that nature. Most black men don't invest. Most black men don't seek to start businesses. That's just not a part of our culture. What's a part of our mainstream pop culture is buying things to enjoy the short-term benefits of life, right? Which is why, once again, the poorest countries in the world are all black, right? To this. We're going to come to you in a second, Dasher. I see you there. Siamese Cat, we'll wait for you for a second. Actually, you know what? Well, no, we'll wait. A woman who doesn't care. I can't see your entire name, woman, but the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you perfectly.
Okay, great. So, a few months ago, I decided to take a hiatus from YouTube because so I went onto the panel and I discussed it was a topic about relationships and how we hold men accountable. So I talked about my experience being rejected by this man. He wanted to go with whomever he wanted to, and I said, go ahead, you do whatever you want. So while I was on that panel discussing that, I felt like I was gaslit. I was just talked over. I was just being disrespected because I guess someone else who was also there kind of, I guess, exposed who they were and all, and they're supposed to be upheld, as someone that was high value and everything else or whatever. And I definitely agree with you wholeheartedly. And women need to really understand, black women, that just because a man he has it financially, that doesn't mean that he has the right to disrespect you, to denigrate you, just basically manipulate you and gaslight you and love bomb you and all those things. And I was able to, and that's when I knew that I didn't like Kevin Samuels, because he was using his authority, he's using his just that status that he has to basically put women down, and he knows exactly what he's doing. Now he may be a little nice because of what happened, because he got exposed, but it doesn't take away the fact that if you're being disrespected and you're being manipulated and you're being cut off and all those things, just let the person go. Because the thing is, what they want someone to try to feed their ego. I am the only or the very few black exclusive rich man, so I'm going to talk to them however they want, because they're not going to let me go because I am so-called high value. No, your money alone doesn't make you high value. What about your character? What about your morals? Everything. So not only do you have to provide, but like you said, be empathetic. And a lot of them, they're not empathetic at all. They just try to abuse their authority. They abuse their their female followers to get a gazillion views and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, when you're at that stratosphere and you're out there and then you made it, if you did even make it, okay, just so you know that it gets lonely at the top. So it gets really dark and lonely up there, and the people that you stepped on over, the people that you gaslit and you manipulated, you're gonna need those same people to balance you out, because it's just so we just have to be very cognizant of those type of people, because you have the Derek Jackson that got exposed, and you got the Kevin Samuels and anybody else. So everything is going to all expose itself if you don't have the character along with providing to balance everything out. So that's what I wanted to say.
Absolutely, spot on. What a great commentary. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I'm going to take a couple of people down. Arsenal, I'm going to take you down for now. Also, Alexander, I'm going to take you down for now. Y'all are frequent flyers of the stream, and so we'll see you next time. Alexander, make sure to come next time, buddy. If you'd like to join the panel, there's some space. We have 3 spots. Make sure that you join the panel right now, because it's going to fill up really quickly. It's going to fill up pretty quickly. Once again, this video is brought to you by UniquePetiqueCandles.com. Make sure you check out Unique Petite Candles on Instagram and on their website. Also, JazzyFashion.com. Let me drop those links for y'all really quickly. JazzyFashion.com is the #1 spot where you can get different fashion trends. Also, follow Jazzy Fashion on Facebook to catch the live streams and to really take part in the fun virtual buying of garments. Really a fun time there. All those links are there for you below. Unique Boutique Candles and Jazzy Fashion, thank you so much for sponsoring the channel. Let's continue on with our panel guest. Dasher47, I saw you that you joined twice. Dasher47, the floor is yours.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Dasher, I hear you. Dasher47 is fighting his internet connection right now. Dasher, it says your devices are not connected, so try and connect them or come back. Tasha, the floor is yours. Go ahead, Tasha.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Tasha, I hear you perfectly now. Go ahead.
Okay, I just got here. I don't know what the topic is about. I'm sorry.
You're fine, Tasha. We'll hang out for a while. We'll come back to you in a little bit. Dasher, I'm going to go ahead and take you down from the back. See that you're having some connection issues there. Let's read a couple comments really quickly. Learning IT says, ladies, please leave those channels alone. Let them squander. Yeah, the reason that Black women are so attracted to Kevin Samuels is because they see the type of man that essentially embodies a successful prototypical type of man, right? Wears a suit, well-spoken, arguably some would say, educated, this and that. And the fact of the matter is you just don't see a lot of Black men who are well-spoken, wears a suit, and are quote-unquote high value. Now, I did a live stream where I was pretty much exposing Kevin Samuels and the fraud that he puts out, just him calling himself an image stylist. We exposed his website and all this other different types of stuff. Just showed the truth of what his previous business was. He wasn't doing that well being an image stylist, just as he wasn't doing that well trying to teach men how to be the best version of themselves, right? But the reason they're so attracted to them is because they see the sheep in the wolf in sheep's clothing, and they think that it's something that can guide them on the path of righteousness. That what this man says somehow has immense value to my life, right? It's all kind of smoke and mirrors with Kevin Samuels, but a lot of them do have self-esteem. She's just BU. Ty says these women have low self-esteem, period. Yeah, definitely. If you go on the Kevin Samuels show and you don't accept the barrage of hatred, then you're seen as argumentative. God forbid that you have high self-esteem and that you don't let the words of a complete stranger or group of strangers online dictate how you decide to live the rest of your days, right? God forbid that. God forbid that you have confidence. God forbid. Let's read a couple more comments here. Okay, says he didn't do well at marriage either. Yeah, he didn't. Failed 2 times. Oh, here we go. We got Black Wall Street in the building again. I forgot. It's not a truth stream without Black Wall Street being mentioned. Thank you, Deny, for Black Wall Street. Oh, I'm sorry. Denai's on our side. She says black men today have no excuses. Denai, forgive my insulting you. I'm sorry. I thought that you were a guy trying to bring up the fact that Black Wall Street. Yes, no, it's so true. There are no excuses today. Listen, there was a woman in the 1800s who made equivalent to $800 million today. She's born in the 1800s. She was born a slave. She made the equivalent wealth value of $800 million today. I think the amount of wealth that she had in the 1900s was 30 million to 50 million. Right? There is no excuse. No excuses. Siamese cat, I didn't let you speak, Siamese cat. The floor is yours.
How conquered they've become. I will point out one thing, that a balance needs to be struck between treating yourself, which is okay when done right, and building businesses. There's a lot of classes one could take to do it.
What?
Building businesses.
Definitely.
That they could do. And I'd like to see them do better for themselves too.
So I mean, that's a great point right there. It's all about balance. It's all about balance. And listen, I got to give you a huge shout out once again. $10 Cash App donation from Oyi. Oh, I don't want to say it. Thank you, Oyi. I'll say that for the Cash App donation. And also Spencer, thank you so much. Spencer just sent me a text. We're going to do a vlog for all the members of the channel featuring Spencer, my gun range instructor. This guy knows what he's doing, man. He's going to be on one of our interviews, the You Can't Handle the Truth series, once we finally get everything kicked off and I get all my new media equipment. But we're going to do a vlog of him and I shooting, and it's going to be something really cool. I appreciate that text, Spencer. I just read it, boss man. I appreciate that, man. I'll hit you up. I'll hit you up in the next few days, and let's do that. I'm excited, Spencer. Go down to the range and go shooting. For all the members of the channel, you're going to get to see my arsenal. You'll get to see the guns that I have and enjoy that new vlog. The white man holding us back again. White man holding us back again. I'm not going to draw this out, ladies and gentlemen. I don't have too much more to say. Kiana says, you shoot guns? Yes, I do. I am a Texan through and through. I shoot guns and I love guns. The reason I got guns to begin with is because I had my life threatened from black men. So I wasn't a gun-toting family. No, that's okay, Simon. I appreciate it. We weren't a gun-toting family. My family does not believe in guns whatsoever. But when it was necessary, when my life was in danger, I definitely started packing. MS, welcome to the chat. MS, welcome to the panel. The floor is yours, MS. I haven't seen you before.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you perfectly, MS.
Okay, I just think it's very telling how we can't even have a conversation with black men without them bringing up the white man or black women. It's just very telling about the lack of accountability there. It's really all I have to say.
You said a lot right there. We joked about on one of the streams, and there are a bunch of comments, blaming weave for everything. My weave caused my credit to crash. My weave caused me to go to the hospital. The black women's weave caused black men to lose their job at work, and all this other types of things. And it really just kind of alluded to the fact that no matter what, it's always going to be a black woman's problem, even when it has nothing to do with black women by and large as a whole. A lot of black men in this manosphere, a lot of black men, even in the black communities, somehow see their women as the bane of their existence, as their women for the sole reason that they're doing so bad in life. It's perplexing, it's confusing, and it's disturbing more than anything, because in one breath, they always say that the women need to follow their lead when they haven't led that well to begin with. But conversely, they also say that the women need to start doing better for the black community, which essentially places them in a leadership role. The black woman is being pulled so many different directions. It's just a wonder why she hasn't been ripped apart yet. And if you haven't watched the last stream, make sure you watch the last stream. Maybe I'll play the clip of Bruce Rivers. I think I'll go ahead and play the clip of Bruce Rivers one more time, because Bruce Rivers was just phenomenal. Bruce Rivers was phenomenal. And to prove your point and to kind of wrap everything up, I think this is a good place here. Hold on, no jumper. It just shows the conquered mind state of black men. No matter what, they can't accept that it's them who is primarily responsible for their failures as a community. It's no matter what, it's always somebody else's issue. It's never their issue. They're never holding themselves accountable. Why we're doing the worst. Why we're doing the worst. We have the weakest men. Let's listen to Bruce Rivers one more time. Just get this out. We're going to wrap this up, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not going to draw this one extremely long tonight. I just clicked on Big Herc's video. Gosh dang it.
They are the strongest thing in these neighborhoods. They are the strongest.
Computer's moving really slow. Hold on. My computer's dying.
Are left holding the fucking bag. They are the.
I'm about to start using my new computer. This computer is just it's like, okay,
It's a positive somebody to look up to.
Mm.
You know, I can't tell you how often it is that these black women are left holding the fucking bag. They are the strongest thing in these neighborhoods. They are the strongest, and they're the ones that always come to me.
Mm.
What these young men need are strong black men. They have the strong black women, but what they need is a strong black man to model after, to mentor them.
Mm. Yeah, and
it's all in the men. Other races see it. Other races can tell. Other races identify and are able to see what's wrong with our culture, what's wrong with our community. But for some reason, our own men just fail to have the insight. They just fail to accept it. They reject it. They reject it at every turn. They reject it. Other races see and they laugh at us. They try and help us. But our own men reject the help. And then they reject the wisdom and the advice that is given to them. Can't win. Can't win. Can't win. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to wrap this up. I appreciate everybody for being here. It's been a good stream, a little bit of a different stream, right? Had to take a lot of different ways. We'll be back to our somewhat more usual type of streams next stream. The statistics stream is coming up. Don't fret. The statistics stream is coming up. I'm going to take everybody down on the panel. Thank you so much for all the support. Thank you, Jedi Mike, for being here.
Can you include
thank
the
you, Elle,
jail?
for being here.
Can you include the
sorry?
jail?
I also thank you for having me on there.
Well, thank you, Siamese. I appreciate you.
Thanks.
Somebody said.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I know the past stream you included the incarceration. Can you talk a little bit about that for the next one, because there were some things I wanted to chime in on and I didn't get a chance to. So if you can touch a little bit on it for the next stream, you don't have to drive, because I know you did one on it on the last stream. But if you could touch a little bit on that for the next one, if you want to.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, I definitely will. We'll talk about incarceration, and we'll really get into it on the statistics stream as well.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll be back live in a couple of days. I already have the next one being planned, and we'll be back to our usual soon. Okay, woman?
Okay. All right.
I didn't mean to say woman like that. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Your name.
Yeah,
we'll see you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. And thank you so much, Tasha. We appreciate y'all. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to wrap it up for today's live stream. Once again, this is a little different of a live stream that we had. Maybe not as quote-unquote entertaining as it usually is. I encourage you to really watch the last two live streams that we had, the Why I'm a Simp and the Unrelenting Abuse of Black Women. Those are pretty entertaining in my opinion, and they were really well done. I really like the way that those turned out. So everybody who stuck with me, who offered the support, Divested and Dust Free says check the PayPal. I surely will. Divested and Dust Free. Thank you so much for the name. Y'all, these names are hilarious, man. I appreciate that donation. Thank you so much, Divested and Dust Free. I see it there with the awesome donation. Y'all are awesome. Thank you so much to everybody that contributed to tonight's live stream. I will see you all in a couple days, 2 days. I'll have the next live back up and running. Y'all are wonderful. Organic Black with the laughing emoji. Maybe next live stream we'll start singing again. I'll start picking out another song to sing to torture you all with. In the meantime, I hope that the rest of you have a good night. Kiana Foltz, what's my email? She asks, is thehonesttruthyt@gmail.com. Huge shout out to Jaleesa Monet in the chat. Huge shout out to Bejik in the chat. Huge shout out to With Expectancy in the chat. Learning IT here as always. IK, Nia X, Melinda 1973, Organic Black, of course. Divested and Dust Free, shout out to you as well. I see these names quite often, and I appreciate y'all for your unmoving support of this channel. We're growing, and it's good to finally be growing. Good to finally be growing. In the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, don't stress, don't fret. The movement has begun and started. We have support, both mainstream and minor stream, if that's a word. And I can't wait to explain more of that to you. It's going to take a couple months, but it's coming up. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your week. I'll see you in a couple days, but enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy yourself tonight. Keep the dusties at bay. Don't stress. Don't fret about them. They will continue to be exposed in the future. I love you all. Once again, email me if you need to. Even if you just want to talk, send me an email. I'd be honored to talk to you. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a Truth Secret Live production. Truth is out.